I'm more of a Stihl fan, as some of you can see from most of the videos. But we'll go into the difference between them and why I bought a Husqvarna electric and a Husqvarna T540 gas instead of the Stihl top handles. Lumberjoe Tree Services. I'm going to do a little review here of the two electric top handle saws that I have. The first one that I was using, this is on demo to me from Mimbach Fleet Supply in Sauk Rapids, Minnesota. This particular saw, going through it, I had abstained from buying because the reviews that I had seen online had a lot to do with the on-off function works on it. And in doing the demo, I did figure out how it finally works. So we'll take this off here. They hooked me up with a light bar too. I don't know if this comes stock, but this is a stock saw as it sits. So the way that the on-off button works is you just click it once, and this puts it into like a ready state, and it'll stay there for about 5 seconds. This is the annoying part, the part that got the negative reviews online, because you push it, oh, I'm not ready to cut yet. Let me quick do this with my hands, and oh, now my saw won't turn on. See right there, I had to push the button again in order to start. Okay, now I got to come back here again, and once you put the back strap down, now it'll stay in a ready position until you stop cutting, until you lift up with the back strap and it immediately goes off. This is because there is no other safety on this saw up in the tree. Now we'll take the Husky out here quick. And so the Husky saw is a push and hold for a second, and then it turns on and it stays ready. This will stay on for 5-ish minutes. The safety feature on this is the T542i, by the way. There is a T540i, but this is the newest one. It has the clutch in it instead of the direct drive. So as we can see, it's still on. The safety feature in it is that the back strap doesn't just push down. The back strap has to slide forward and then go down. And now it's ready to activate. And then when you do it, it stays on and you're ready to continue moving. And if you bump the back strap, you still can't pull the trigger. It's like a regular, like a regular chainsaw rear handle with the added feature. Because this gets knocked around so much more when you're up in the tree. If you want it off, push and hold, you get the climber's choice on how you want it to work up in the tree versus our good old Stihl, which again doesn't have the safety switch and is deactivated already. So you don't push this button on here until you're absolutely ready to start making the cut. Anyway, you put it on. There's only one setting on this, which is just fully auto, full force the whole time. On the Husqvarna, there's 2 settings on it. You got your push it on, and then you can go into an eco setting and off of eco. So there's 2 power settings on it. 80% of the time that I'm in the tree, I'm running it on eco. Just because I don't have stuff that's that much bigger. You know, if you're cutting stuff over 6 inches, you're running on full blast. That being said, the battery that the Stihl was demoed to me at is a, we can show how this system works. So this just pops straight in there, slam it down, it's ready to go. The gauge on the battery will tell you how much battery life is left. So that's another difference that I saw between the two saws, is that although This one's on the side, and you can do the same thing. This has a tiny little LCD screen that's up here that when it's on, they both will read out what's going on. This one here, if that one's on, it'll tell you what's going on as well. Click the brake off, that one shuts off. Click the brake off, mine's still ready to use. With this LCD screen on the Husky, it'll tell you when the battery is low. There is no indicator of low battery on the Stihl saw. You got low oil, you've got your chain brake on, and then you've got your power switch on active. The only way to get it is to manually push the button to get your readout. The Stihl battery, this one is their middle capacity battery, our 36 volts and our 6 amp hours. And on this one, we got our 36 volts and 5 amp hours, which is 180 watt hours versus 227 watt hours. In other words, this battery lasts longer. It is heavier than this battery. That's a trade-off that the climber has to figure out when they're up in the tree. Do they want a heavier saw that lasts longer, or do they want to swap a battery out at some point by raising and lowering or coming out of the tree and taking a break? It's just up to the individual. You can buy heavier batteries for both saws and go up and saw all day. You still have to put bar and chain oil in these saws. So at some point, you're either going to have something raised up to you, or you're going to have to come out of the tree to fill it back up. Or you lower the saw down and have one of your ground people fill it up for you. So let's go over another thing here. On the Stihl saw, as we go in here, you can see this fills up with sawdust like crazy. And they knew it, because in the back here, they put an air filter. And the air filter is for air intake for the electric motor. And I'm guessing it either sucks in there or blows out here or vice versa. But they needed an air filter in order to protect the battery. The Husky doesn't need that. It just is a breeze through. Here's your two little hookups. It narrows on this end. You've got your air here, and your intake is pretty obvious that it's on the side, and that gets full of some sawdust. But otherwise, it acts as its own air filter because that screen is pretty small. So this requires blowout. I'll go the other way with this now. And I will say, if you look at the connectors on the batteries, this is the Husqvarna, this is the Stihl. I believe that this is a far sturdier battery connector than this, where you got these basically little slide-in pins that are plastic. Stihl covers theirs, and they're just these little slits that make contact. That is, in my opinion, a much more robust connector piece that almost cleans itself as you connect and disconnect the battery. So if there's any type of corrosion that might get on there, this would abrase itself clean each time you put it on, took it off. That's not to say that this wouldn't do that to some extent, but you can see we've got plastic around here, plastic brakes. This plastic that's on here is actually part of the entire battery casing, and it's not an add-on. And then it's just those slits. So Stihl did better on that portion. Now let's go over like the externals of the saw. First and foremost, I want to start with the bar and the chain. So Husky, this is stock, and the Stihl is stock, as we went over. The Stihl comes with a 14-inch bar. It runs 3/8 pitch at 050. The Husky contracted with Oregon, and this comes with the Speed Cut Nano system on it. So this is a 325 pitch, and it's a 043. It has a 7-tooth sprocket versus a 6-tooth sprocket. This cuts so much better than this. This cuts, the Husqvarna cuts faster, it cuts smoother, and there's way less chatter. Stihl, just on that aspect alone, is far behind. I hope that they come up with something on their own. They could do something different and not associate with Oregon at all, or choose to go that way. But if they went with like a 1/4 pitch, and then with an 043, and then upped it to a 7/2 sprocket, and then got rid of this as a full chisel chain versus a semi chisel chain, and so going to a semi would probably smooth it out a little bit. And that's an easy fix. That's not necessarily from the factory that way. You get what chain you want put on when you buy it. At least I do at Mimbach Fleet. But then one of the other externals on this is we kind of go in opposite directions here on the clutch cover. Well, clutch cover or motor cover. This is plastic. This is metal. And then it goes the opposite direction on the other side of the saw. So they're both in reverse of one another. This is plastic. This is metal. Right here. There it is. There's no metal on the front there. So metal down here, plastic down here. So lastly are your handles. And one of the main reasons that I like Stihl so much is because of their robustness for their saws. Husky always kind of seems like they put less work into the plastics, and the handles. The handles feel like they're wide and bulky, and they've got extra stuff added on here to like maintain the grip. Stihl always just has this kind of rounded square handle. It feels way heavy-dutier plastic. And Husky doesn't do that. And then your triggers, for your trigger finger, this feels like it's almost off a vacuum cleaner or something. It's real spongy when you do push it in. It's big. It's almost like an idiot-proof trigger. And Stihl is a thinner, more flat-fronted squeeze on it. Who cares, right? I mean, you squeeze it and it goes, you let go and it stops. It's just one of those little nuances where if it feels right, you're going to use it more. If it feels wrong, you're going to be like, put that piece of crap away. Let me use the good one. So as far as that goes, it's kind of a complete rundown without actually breaking it open, which, you know what? Why don't we do that? Let's break her open. They're all dirty, so stick with me. It's like we're a 13 millimeter there and a 13 millimeter here. They both have capture nuts on them, which would be kind of senseless to not have a capture nut on it, especially for a chainsaw that's supposed to be up in a tree. There we go. Oh yeah, you're used. So one of the other things, like I said, metal, plastic, and this plastic here was the first thing that I noticed when I picked it up at the store. How much it bends, and especially on the critical portion of the saw, the part of the saw that's gonna, especially if you're right-handed, it's gonna be away from you, is down here. So when it sits here like this, it'll bang on the tree a lot more, or other parts, other gear, whatever. But then they put this little Teflon pad in here, and that ends up pushing on the bar, and it gave it a heck of a lot more rigidity on the bottom. So it lightens the weight of the saw and then increases the rigidity of the plastic. What's the quality of the plastic? I don't know. But you can see in here, we just got a regular old 6-tooth spur sprocket. And with the new Husky 542, they put the clutch in. Rodney, the Stihl rep, comes into the store, and I said I just bought the Husky 542i because it's got the new clutch system in it. So he said, why do you need a clutch? And I said, so that when you're making a cut into the tree and you put too much pressure on it, it doesn't stop the saw, and you have to come out of the cut and press the trigger to get it to start back up again. And in addition to that, if you've got a clutch, you still get rotation on the chain by pressing too hard, and you can let up a little bit, and it feels like a regular gas-powered chainsaw. Well, what I didn't know was that the 220 Stihl did something with their motor that mimics what the clutch does. So Husky had a motor that just quit if it got overburdened. Stihl has a motor that also quits if it gets overburdened, but will pick back up again as soon as you let the pressure off. No need to re-squeeze the trigger. So you don't need a clutch with the Stihl saw. So on that, Stihl got it right off the bat by picking the correct motor, that they didn't have to introduce another working piece in order to complicate or over-engineer the saw to make it feel like a gas-powered saw. So that being said, Stihl is probably more superior on that, on the motor aspect of it. Time will tell, depending on the robustness of the motor. They seem to be rated for 300 hours, according to Stihl. I haven't found anything for Husqvarna. And that, I believe, is 300 hours of continuous use. So what do you turn that on for 2 straight weeks and just let it run and the motor won't fail? Good luck trying to do that up in a tree. It might take you a few years. Yeah, I don't know what else to really tell you about the saws other than until Stihl fixes the electronic switch portion of their saw, I am afraid that I'm going to have to say that they're going to come in second place as far as the electric top handles go. Husky's got them beat until they upgrade the bar, the chain, and the sprocket, and until Stihl upgrades at least the timing on the switch. Honestly, if I would take it at the single power level versus the double power level, the eco or the full power, but it's got to get a speed cut system or something that's equivalent or better. I think that they could easily go with a 1/4 inch pitch 043 or 325 with a 7-tooth sprocket and a low pro chain, and it would probably blow the Husky's Speed Cut Nano system out of the water. It's Oregon Speed Cut Nano, but Husky put their name on it for the purposes of their own saw. So until they get those two things upgraded, I'm still going to go with the one that I bought. And I'm going to tell Rodney and everybody at Mimbach that I think the same. And hopefully they start carrying both products in the store for you guys to make up your own mind. With that being said, have an unrainy day at home, because that's what I'm going to be going out until. See ya.
Say, Joe, talk. We're recording.
Joe, talk.
There you go, talk.
I can talk about a lot of things. This is where I say, this is a Lumber Joe Tree Service chainsaw review. God, I always hated talking to the cameras. I always hated it. Like, you don't really know what to say, what cadence you should use. Is my hair okay? There we go. Let's go from there. Oh. Anyway,